Alright, so we're back into another One Piece card game video. I'm a little late on a couple of these things, but I'd rather knock out the ones that I want to do. So today, we're going to go through OP04 Crocodile, and probably tomorrow, Rebecca. So definitely subscribe if you want to see that as well. This is a beginner guide. I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff. You can follow along with the chapters below in case you want to skip around or just take a look at the gameplay. This is all really catered to somebody who has never played Croc before. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments. But the first thing is going to be the leader. Leader is pretty cool. I think, you know, I've said it before in other One Piece card game videos, but a lot of these leaders are pretty simple, but those simple things are relatively impactful. And the other thing is that with OP04, pretty much all the leaders are multicolored, and this color combination is quite cool because you have the defense and the removal kind of and the versatility of purple, along with some other things, obviously minusing effects, along with yellows, albeit some of the big mom stuff you can't really use, that type of thing, but you have a lot of trigger effects, recovery of life effects, and very unique things that you only get in yellow. So anything that you have, or I should say any leader that can utilize yellow in a good way, is going to be relatively good, probably for this set and as well as in the future. With Crocodile, his effect says opponent's turn, once per turn, when you return a Dawn from your field to the Dawn deck through one of your effects, not their own of course, add one of your Dawn in your Dawn deck that's active, or add one Dawn from your Dawn deck as active, not rested. So a couple important things. Obviously, you can't do it on your turn, so if you're thinking about shoving in Magellan like I did when I first saw it, read the card because it says opponent's turn. So things like Blast Breath, things like the new 8 drop we're going to take a look at, and more are going to be pretty useful for this. That's really going to be on the purple side. Obviously, all the purple effects are going to have those -1s. It's just archetypal in that way. And yellow will kind of back you up later into the game, in the late game, and this is really a late game deck in my opinion. You really want to, you know, have your established board with bigger really threatening threats at a high cost and recover life over time. And you know, it's going to take a little bit of time to get used to, because again, you know, those higher costs may not have counter power, and you're going to have to be pretty diligent in your choices going up to that. And honestly, that is not without some new support. And when we say that, I mean, there's a good amount of stuff that's pretty cool. So when we take a look at this, you may have noticed on the leader, it does have the works character trait, or the leader trait. And pretty much all of the stuff that you're going to be using in this deck, at least to keep it consistent and to keep it pretty good, are going to be that. You know, you want to make sure you can search. You want to make sure that you utilize all the effects that are specific to the works character trait. So a few of those things are going to be the 2 cost Miss Valentine. Look at the top 5. You get a works in its type card to your hand, and it can be itself, and you replace the remaining at the bottom. The other trigger effect is that you -1, which in this leader, you effectively get that back for free. Anytime you -1 on their turn for the first time, obviously it's once per turn, you get that back for free. It just comes back active. And she's really good in a couple of different ways, as in when you play the 8 cost Katakuri, you can play this earlier in the game, look at the top 5, get what you need, whether it be Miss Sunday or Mr. 4, Crocodile, whatever it may be, and then you can use 8 cost Katakuri to put it back at the top of your life, and then you basically get that guaranteed -1 in active, along with the possible draw. So that's one of the things that you kind of have to keep in mind when playing this deck. Now we have the Missile Sunday, which has an on-play effect. You add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck as rested. If you have 6 or more Dawn, you get to draw a card. Now you can see the costs on 5. That basically means you get to ramp 1 into rested, going first on curve, and draw a card, because you go to 6 after you ramp 1 with Miss All Sunday. On 6, you get to ramp 1, draw a card guaranteed, and then have one open if you're going second. So that's always an option if you really want it to be. The other part of it is that it has a trigger effect, -2. You get to play the card from your life, which is cool because one of those, basically what will happen is that as long as you're at 5 or more, Dawn that is, you get to play this card from your trigger effect. -2, you ramp 1, you gain 1 from the Crocodile, and then you get to draw a card off of that. It gets a little tricky with this card being in your hand because it doesn't have counter power, and sometimes you just don't want to pay 5 just to draw a card. And other times is that when you use these minus down effects, which you have to be pretty careful about using, you don't want a -2, especially when you do the -1 for Miss Valentine, a -1 for Crocodile, etc., etc. And then that -2 comes out of your trigger, you just have kind of a dead card in hand. Is not a bad choice, along with the other ones that don't have counter power, to try to cycle through using the Crocodile effect when we get there. But Mr. 4 is a pretty cool card. I personally like it. You know, there's some lists that don't play it. It is searchable. It is a pretty nifty card. On an opponent's attack, you pretty much anytime they attack, you can trigger this or not. You get to do a -1. And it gets 1k for the battle, and it gains blocker. So the way that works is that right now, obviously, it doesn't have blocker on the field. You pay for 5, but on their attack, you have that option to gain blocker in that 1 plus 1000 power for the battle. So a couple of different instances that you can use it with is where you can obviously plus -1, you restand that that Dawn, and then you have that 7k blocker for that turn. If it's in rest, if they're swinging into it with 6, which has happened, and you'll see it in the gameplay as well, you can just -1, get an active Dawn for free, and then you don't really have to care about the blocker. You just get that plus 1000 for free. And those are the type of instances that are really cool because I don't really mind swinging with this guy. You just put 1 Dawn underneath, go 7 to face, and then they swing back into it, and then you can use this at any time along with whatever counter power that you have in your hand. And it just ends up being pretty cool overall. While it does have its downsides, just like all these other cards, where it can get 3000 worlds or a couple other different, like black and blue can easily remove it. That's the only downside of it. Finally, Croc, this other card here, where on play you can -2 Dawn, and when you play it, you get to place the top card of your deck into your life. So you basically recover 1, and it's honestly like the perfect like storm of effects, and as well as cost and power. Being an 8 cost, searchable, 9k power, recover a life, no counter card is actually really quite good. Like this is like perfectly statted. You probably want to have 4 in this guy, and having on board with the on the opponent's attack once per turn effect is -1, draw a card and discard a card is also really good. You basically get this filter out, get rid of these guys that don't have counter power or things you don't need, and along with making sure that you cycle through your deck as much as possible. Now, the last one that recovers life, but not really, is the Yamoto. Basically, what it says is that in between the amount of cards between your life and as well as your opponent's, you get to KO up to that point. So if you have 2, your opponent has 3, you get to KO a 5 or less in their field. And this is really clutch because sometimes what happens is that your opponent will get pretty aggro, and effectively with Croc and as well as Yamoto, when you're at 1 life, you get to recover 1. So you're basically getting extra draws from their swings. And if they're not taking care of your 9 drops, which two ways you can do it is spend a lot of Dawn to swing into it, or spend a lot of Dawn to remove it using, let's say, like Gumrock. You know, that is pretty detrimental for most decks and pretty hard for a lot of decks to kind of get rid of. So I would say, you know, the more that you can play these cards and the more efficiently that you can play them, the better. Yamoto is my one of my favorite picks for the deck. You know, you have access to yellow. This is a great yellow card. You get to recover 1 at 1, that is, and you get to pop blockers and things like that. But yeah. Now for the rest of the cards, let's talk about the deck list real quick. If anything, I think the deck itself, well, let's take a look at the deck list itself to kind of talk through some of the rest of the cards, because I think, you know, overall, the deck itself, like I said, has a bunch of stuff that doesn't have counter, but you know, as you play the deck and as you search through it, as you go through everything, you know, you can choose basically the text that you might want, right? I personally like a couple of different things, and going left to right, the Black Maria basically is the 5-drop that you're using, the 5/6, and I quite like it because, so going left to right is the Black Maria. It is basically the same thing as Mr. 4. I think this can be easily swapped with Uda. I think Uda is probably the better pick because it does go well against something like Queen that has a lot of blockers, or really anything that has a lot of 4 or 5 or less, that type of thing. If you can't find Udas, I think Black Maria is a good replacement. So if you take a look at the deck list below, the link itself, it might be a little bit different. It might have those Udas, just as a heads up. We have a playset of the Crocs. We kind of talked about that. Same thing with Miss Sunday. You really want to make sure that you ramp as fast as possible. Miss Valentine, as well as 4 of these Mr. 4s as well. Basically, you just want to hit those on curve. 13 and Miss Friday, honestly, is just another target. It is a 2K in hand. You don't really want to play it for the trigger or for the effect. So it's just, again, another searchable target. Now, Shiki is going to be kind of like that tech. You see this in like the Eastern or Asian deck lists, and I have agreed with it, honestly. It's a 6K for 7. It's basically a 7 swing that they can't swing into as long as you have 8 or more Dawn. And most of the time, unless your Dawn management is not great, you're going to have 8 or more Dawn. Because you really want to play your 8 and 9 costs with Yamato category and as well as Croc. So, you know, more often than not, this 6 cost is going to be on the board and doing well. The 2 cost Sanji, I've actually played this guy. I've said it before in my category deck profile. I don't really want to play it, but I have actually played him. He's just another 2K in yellow, along with Charlotte Cracker. So the tech spot, I would say, is that you can switch this Sanji or the Cracker with other 2Ks and or other Big Mom targets. And then you can replace Shiki with something like the 1 cost Charlotte that searches the top 4, right? So those are all really good for that. And that's also really important because if you do switch over to like the 1 cost Charlotte, then you can search out your big 8 cost category as well. And you'll probably justify it playing at 8 instead of 3. Now, I like Cracker because going second, there isn't an amazing way or anything amazing to play, which is, again, why you would play Sanji instead. The 4 cost Sanji. But I found that, you know, having more 2Ks is a little bit better, or at least in my experience. So going second, again, Charlotte Cracker has been super clutch. More often than not, you're going to have less life, and you can see that in the gameplay videos as well. Again, 8 cost category kind of takes care of pretty much anything in the mirror, I would say, and pretty much anything that is problematic that can't be KO'd. Or if it is KO'd, it is like Marco, it just causes issues. Capone Beige has a great effect where the trigger basically says that you choose a character or a leader card and they cannot swing for the turn. And it can be definitely a game changer in general. It is also a 2K. It's just nice to have in hand. Yamato at 3 because the effect isn't always live. Category is, so you can probably play that at 4 if you wanted to. And then the other parts of defense is going to be Hell's Judgment and Arrow. Now, Hell's Judgment, I've been back and forth between Blast Breath and this, and I have liked Hell's Judgment because it has just provided me more options to say no to the opponent. Like, Arrow is good because of the trigger effect, and that you're going to have that effect of being at 2 or less life and minusing 30 or 3,000 pretty much at any point. But Hell's Judgment, you have to keep up a second Dawn, which if you basically keep up 1 and then use the Crocodile effect or another effect to -1, then you should be okay in order to do that. The only issue is that you have the -1 for Hell's Judgment as well, but Blast Breath does the same exact thing. It's just that Hell's Judgment ends up stopping 2 attacks, or basically making 2 attacks rendered useless. But overall, I like this deck list. I think there's changes to be made, and those changes are going to be in the the description below. The only reason why I kept it like this is because this is my original deck list, and I did gameplay for this original deck list. So I don't want to change it and then have people in the comments saying why I changed it. All right, so the first game here is going to be Zoro, and I went ahead and went second. You know, I kind of like just opening or trying to open that 2-drop to look for my pieces. Otherwise, you can just go first and go Miss Sunday, and then just ramp into 6 and then draw a card. Here, I ended up playing the 2-cost. To search, didn't really get anything, and then got the 2-cost again. I didn't even mean to do this. This is my bad, and probably just clicking too much on the sim, but ended up playing the 3-costs. You really just want those in your hand. They don't really have a benefit at all to really to use that activate main, really. We are taking a bunch of damage here, which is a bummer. We did open all Sunday. The issue here is that I do have Hell's Judgment in my hand, which is really good against Zoro. You know, in general, you know, you don't really see too much Zoro in OP04, just because Rebecca is a thing, and it's just, you know, in general, it's okay. It's a good deck. It's just like a lot of these decks want to go long. Zoro might be that deck to say like, hey, I still got a bunch of threats and I still can go early on to prevent all of that. He did play this Jozu, which was weird to me. Because I went all Sunday, I was able to go to 9 quicker and play my Yamoto, and then basically pop whatever I need there, which was that Zoro, and also ramp a life. So we went ahead and did that. We did go ahead and play the 8-cost Croc as well. We have 2 pretty big threats. That Marco, you can't really do anything about outside of using our category. So I mean, that's something to kind of consider. I was just wondering, what do I trash here? I didn't really want to trash the Yumoto, but you know, in the long run, Hell's Judgment is probably better, and you really want to have all of these guys in your hand, basically. You just gotta be wary of how much Dawn you're using and how much you can manipulate. So basically, I invalidated their attacks with that 1 card, which was nice. You know, I was able to just go ahead and do that for Hell's Judgment, or using Hell's Judgment. And I was just deciding how I want to approach this. I can use Emoto to pop something and go from there. I can use the 8-cost category to put it in his life. He's likely not going to swing with his 4-cost Marco, so I figured if he does swing with something, it's going to be the Zoro, and I can't really do anything with about the Marco to pop it because it's just going to come back. And then after that, it was just like whatever. And he went 14 on my Yamoto for some reason, this is just whatever. I mean, I don't think you should discard 2 there. And the rest is kind of history, if you can kind of tell. A lot of bad counter decisions on the Zoro part, right? If he played this a little bit better, I think he would have had a better time. Because, like, all I really had in my hand was 8-cost category, 8-cost Croc, and 9-cost Yamoto. Which, you know, in the long run, as you start with this deck and as you understand the ratios and, you know, your preferences, I think those 3, and maybe even other bigger bodies in yellow and as well as purple, are going to circulate for your ratios. Some people go lower on the Yamoto, some people go lower on the 8-costs. I think category is probably one of the best ones you can be running. Obviously, the 8-cost Crocodile caters to the leader a lot, but sometimes it's just right? I think, in my opinion, it goes Crocodile at the top because it is always active. You know, you can always recover a life. The only downside is -2. And the secondary effect is really good because you can cycle your hand and as well as use your leader effect. You can get rid of those bigger costs or any of these other cards that don't really matter. Then it's 8-cost category because it can get rid of these 4-cost Marcos and stuff like that. I've already discussed all this other stuff. And then Yamoto, obviously, because it's so very conditional. All right, next up is Queen. They chose to go second. I'm gonna go first. I don't have any first turn plays, so that's a bummer. But we're gonna go ahead and just swing 6 here, and then play the 2 costs to search. Hope you're ready for a longer one, because Queen almost always takes forever to play. I should have, by the way, gotten the Miss All Sunday, but I went ahead and just got another 2 cost. I wanted to get a Croc here because, you know, the issue with Queen is that they play a lot of blockers and they play a lot of bigger threats. So like Mihawk and ACOS Katakurias themselves, you know, that type of thing. And they also got these 0 costs, which I was looking at. I was like, wow, he used 2 of them, or at least maybe he just discarded 1 for them. That's a really good card in that deck too, just because it just reduces your hand size. He didn't swing here, which I don't think is right. I think you can just swing, it's fine. I went ahead and went 6. And then I went ahead and finally played the 6 cost boy here. ACOS Katakuri came down for the Uda, which is kind of weird. I played my own, which is cool, because now, you know, the whole thing about this is that, like, you can increase their life total along with the Yamoto effect. So now Yamoto has some cool stuff, or not cool stuff, but a bigger range for cost is basically what I'm saying. I now have my own 8 cost Katakuri and an 8 cost Crocodile. And I can't attack with it because he got the beige out the life and got the trigger. You can now use his life recovery effect if you wanted one, but he went ahead and drew. I'm going to go ahead and just use the effect just so I can have an additional draw. I could have got out of that one, but I mean, I have such a huge hand size. I'm not really too concerned about this. One of 4 of his blockers should block this. And then we're just going to go ahead and play out 2 of these Udas. And the reason why is because against this deck, like, you want to play, obviously, like in general, you want to play the ACOS, right? But against this deck, they have so many blockers, and like 2 of these Udas say rest 2 of the blockers. So immediately he used 2 of the 3000 worlds in order to get rid of them, which is correct. I messed up here yet again. I don't know why I keep clicking stuff where I shouldn't be clicking. But I miscounted some of the, or I misclicked the amount of counter to use. I went ahead and just made him use a card out of hand, and then he took the next one, another card out of hand, which is not that big of a deal for Queen. Queen wants to have a lower hand size anyway, just so it can have its effect go off. But he went. He's going to 3. I don't know where this is going, but you already know we're probably gonna have a nice little Hell's Judgment here. We're gonna restand a Dawn here. I think we get rid of a ACOS. Yeah, I think we get rid of a ACOS. We're gonna go and use the counter step for Hell's Judgment. We're gonna reduce that and then use a 1 cost. Now the Mihawk is only a 6k, so he can't really swing into my bigger boys. He red rocks my A cost, one of them anyway. I take this one, and I think we can just swing out. Like, we're not gonna win because he has 3 costs, or 3. He has 3 blockers, so we're just gonna bully the Mihawk real quick, and we're gonna recover 1, and then just pass turn. Because he might just take that one. Well, it's one of the things I was discovering against Queen too, by the way. Like, every time that they recover a life, that means that's just another draw for them in general. Like, they're just gonna draw that card instead of them drawing on the swing. So I mean, it's just really up to your choice if you want to have them have an extra card to use later on. But obviously, that was not the case here. We went ahead and Blast Breath here, just go to 13 after this 12. Interesting number. He probably should have went face, to be honest. Like, I don't think he should be like scared of using his blockers here. Like, in all technicality, my hand could be dead, and he can just like swing face. We're gonna go ahead and bully the Mihawk again. I think we have enough attacks, depending on his hand, to take it out. Because we don't really want to focus on the life just yet. Yeah, so We're gonna go 9 here, and another 9, I think. Yeah, another 9. And then I think we're just gonna go ahead and pass turn, because I don't think there's anything else that we needed to do. He only has a Mihawk and 1 card in hand. He can draw another card, which is cool. That's fine. It's possible that he can play like another Mihawk, but that's gonna be whatever. He can play an 8 cost Katakuri, which is also whatever. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of the Miss All Sunday, because he's probably gonna swing life, and we can play the Yumoto after. I went ahead and used Blast Breath, and I got lucky here because we really just need the boys to be out and about. We're just gonna keep swinging at the Mihawk, because there's no reason. There's like literally no reason. He gave me another life too, by the way, from that effect on KO. There's no reason to swing life because it's just gonna give him cards to defend with. So it's just better just to do that. I didn't have anything to recover because it'd be silly to do that. And then he went ahead and conceded. So there you go. That's how you play against Queen as Croc. It's kind of annoying. I think as Queen, you should, again, not be too afraid of just swinging with your blockers. Just swinging with the blockers, you should be fine. All right, up next is Blue Croc, and that's the old Croc versus the new Croc. That's basically what it is. And I think blue in general is kind of annoying, just because, you know, Gum Rock or Red Rock is really annoying just in general. It's just like you play all this stuff for 8, 9, and 10 Dawn, right? And it's all gonna be wasted basically just because you're gonna get Red Rocked. You know, all that is just gone, all that effort, all that Dawn. But here, he repeatedly swings 7. I don't think there's, I mean, you can counter out of it, but I don't think it's too much of a big deal just to take them and then recover the life after. I already have 2 Yamotos in hand, but I do have this Charlotte Cracker, which, you know, I personally think it's a great addition. Like, I think in this slot, or that slot specifically, depending, you can play the Sanji that plays off of life as a blocker. But I like being more aggressive. I like being more proactive, and more often than not, I'm going to have less life than my opponent. So the Cracker just kind of does its job, as we can see here, just going 7 just for 1 Dawn and threaten that. And on their turn, which you will see very, very soon, they forget that it is a 6 cost. We do play the 5-drop Mr. 4, I believe. I always forget the name. I always get them mixed up for the numbers. I forgot. Well, I didn't really forget. I mean, yeah, I probably forgot the swing lead. Okay. All right. Okay. Listen, it's the sim. I thought I swung. Okay. All right. All right. It's a tough day today. Okay. It's a tough day. Anyway, it is Croc playing Kaya. Drawing 2, discarding 2. Looks like the Boa Hancock and as well as the Kaido. The Boa can get back with the Gecko Moria, which I do believe you probably will do later on. He does play the Doflamingo, which is cool. I mean, he's seeing stuff. He saw the Perona, he saw the Doflamingo, he saw this Boa with an additional Dawn here. And again, just getting a 2k out of his 7. I think he probably thought it was still at 5, but with that attached Dawn, even on his turn, I still have the boost. I did whiff on this Miss Valentine, which is pretty unfortunate. He does spend 2 out of his hand. I'm just gonna go ahead and swing 7 with my blocker guy, which is technically not a blocker. He's just a guy. He's just another way of getting that -1 on their turn to untap 1, which unfortunately not able to use my arrows or my blast breath. So just think about that for a second. And this build I will also. Because people always I think I say it in every single deck profile. I think I say it in every single guide, deck profile, whatever. I always say this is not the end all be all. Well, maybe I don't always say that, but you can change the deck list in any way you can. At any point, I always try to put a deck list in the description, and that's going to be the most updated one. So if there is any changes to this deck, it's going to be there. You know, it's going to be there. Anything that I've decided has been a good addition or removal, it's going to be there. But he would cool red rock, cool. So you went ahead and red rocked here. The way I see it is that like I can two things. I swung again with the 5 cost here. He swung into it with 6, which wasn't a great idea because again you can just -1, which I did, and it's a perfectly fine play. Like you just go to 7 for free. It did draw into the 8 cost category. These 9 drop Yumotos are cool, but not really particularly useful because I can play the 9 cost Yumoto, pop the blocker, but I think it's probably better just to go swing 7, have him either take it or block, which he did block. I got rid of it anyway, and then play out the category, which just gives me an additional life and technically a draw. So this draw with the Miss Valentine will also another red rock, which I clicked here. I was like, how many did you play? You found 2 already, which is just silly. The on play effect minuses 1 in order to proc my leader effect, and then I'm able to use Hell's Judgment in my hand as well. So just one of those things to keep in mind, because it probably will come up sometime or other. So we finally Yumoto here. I was gonna swing with Mr. 4, but I think I want him to swing at me so that way I can get my trigger effect. If he somehow swings another time, which I don't think he will because he's running out of cards and stuff on the field, I can play my Yumoto. But more likely, I'm going to play one of these 8 drops. And he plays a Kaido. So he returns back my Mr. 4, which is annoying, but that's okay. I'm just deciding how I want to do it. I don't think there's really too much of a, like, sure, you're supposed to swing before you play, I guess. But I mean, he's either going to take it or not. I mean, he can block or not. I don't think this is really too much of a big deal for these 9 and 6 swings. So it plays Perona. My Perona. Kaido is just going to sit there, to be honest. I can swing pretty big with one of these 9k swings, but I don't think I will. I don't think I will. So we're just going to use our Croc effect and then go 2 open. I can Hell's Judgment minus at 3, go to 9 for him, and then include his leader, which is pretty much the only other viable attack, and then just pitch a 1k counter. So now he just has to commit, which, you know, in any other circumstance outside of like him not having 2 cards in hand, he literally has to commit 3 and then additionally 2 more just to go to 7, and I'm okay with taking that. I was thinking about playing this Miss All Sunday, but I have to -2 and I don't get those back. Well, I get 1 back. I could have played it, let's put it that way. I get 1 back, but I wouldn't go to 9. So if I wanted to pop this this 4-drop or this blocker, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I want to keep my options open. I think swinging here at the Gekimoria first is probably better. If he wants to block, that's fine. I have another 9k swing and just make that difficult for him. But I think going 6 here and then playing out our Croc to go with another life is going to be just perfectly fine. So now we have 3 9-drops on board. I haven't seen an arrow, so I can't really use that. I've used these leader effects and also put stuff into my deck into my life over and over again. I just don't really see them. I bitched the Miss All Sunday because I mean I could draw for that. It's kind of a costly draw, but I have all of these 9 and 8 drops in my hand, so I very well may just keep playing those. And Yumoto is just like super good because like at any point if he plays the Dofi blocker or what's the other one? Oh, literally there, the law blocker. I can just pop them and then just keep swinging with these 9s. That's just like one more attack he probably was not expecting. Although I won't have, I will have only 1 Dawn open. It is what it is on that. I think here he is pretty much giving up because honestly, like here, like I just have to defend this. and then I just if you pass, I have 3 9k swings and then a bunch of ones on my leader, on a bunch of on my leader. So we're just gonna keep swinging 9 until he counters. He can easily probably counter after this one, but I don't think there's really much of a point because you know that I have a bunch of Dawn to put on my leader. So there you go. That is yellow purple Croc. I like the deck a lot, and I think it's going to take a lot of work to make it like viably competitive to like win an event, like straight up win an event. But when it does get there, I think we're going to see a lot of tops for people who take that time. It'll also depend on what Zoro looks like and Whitebeard looks like. I think this can kind of keep up with Whitebeard. It just depends on what that mid game looks like. Like if they keep putting out a bunch of skillless cards, a bunch of stuff that is like super high cost and you have nothing, yeah, you can't do anything about it. Like you can category it. That's kind of funny, right? You can just like keep categorying like all their bigger threats and then they just take that life later and then you have to replay it. So it's one of the things to keep in mind, like competitively, this deck I think can do it. I think this is a cool deck. It has a cool combination. You just have to get the ratios right and you have to get that practice in. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.